today we celebrate the feast of St. Anthony of Padua. I remember hearing the story that John Paul II, when he was in Portugal, which is actually where we believe St. Anthony was born, he got up and in the Mass he was saying, "We do not celebrate, the saint we celebrate is not St. Anthony of Padua." And they were like, yes, they all cried yes, because they were thinking St. Anthony of Lisbon is who they think of him. "He is not St. Anthony of Lisbon." And the crowd goes silent. Like, okay, what is he doing? "He is St. Anthony of the whole world." And everyone cheered, yes, because we recognize St. Anthony is such a great saint that he's not just for a particular people or a particular time, but he is for the whole world. It's a great thing. A lot of times we only look to him when we have lost something. Dear St. Anthony, please come around. Something is lost and cannot be found. I remember several years ago reading about how somebody had stolen some first-class relics of St. Anthony, and I said, that's the stupidest thing you could do. They're going to find them. And about 3 days later in the news it came out that they did find him. It's just like, hello, you always find St. Anthony. But he was a great saint who proclaimed Christ so beautifully. He was humble. When he joined the Franciscans, he didn't let them know that he had already been ordained a priest. But then one day there was a mix-up about who was going to preach, and they found out he was a priest, so they said, "You preach." And he preached so beautifully, the Franciscans said, okay, we need to get this guy involved in stuff. But so he is a great intercessor for us for so many different things. Not just for when we lose things, although he's pretty good at that as well. In the first reading today, we hear from the second letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, and we hear this line, "We hold this treasure in earthen vessels, that their surpassing power may be of God and not from us." And it's a good thing to remember. On the one hand, in humility, recognizing we are weak. We are broken. We cannot do anything on our own. Jesus says to us, without me, you can do nothing. And so sometimes we need to walk in humility with that. But we also need to walk in confidence, because sometimes when we look at our brokenness and our sinfulness, we think, I'm worthless. What can I do? No, we have a treasure. We have this incredible treasure, and the surpassing power is from God. It doesn't depend on us and our brokenness and our sinfulness. It doesn't depend on us being virtuous and all great. God can use us even in our weakness if we but say yes to him. St. Paul then goes on, he says, we're afflicted in every way, but not constrained, perplexed but not driven to despair, persecuted but not abandoned. You read the Acts of the Apostles, you see about how he's very often persecuted, driven out, put into jail, all these things, struck down but not destroyed. I don't know exactly what he's thinking about here. I'm thinking about the time that he got stoned. And then some people actually think he was stoned to death, and then the disciples surrounded him, and he got back up. He rose again. Always carrying about in the body the dying of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be manifest in our bodies. That he's saying, do you see, I've got all this weakness. I can't overcome any of this. But God does. And God does in you and in me as well. Think about our weakness, our brokenness. And yet God can still use us if we say yes to him. That these earthen vessels are weak and can be crushed, but the treasure we hold is God. You think about this when we receive Holy Communion. We hold infinity in our small human nature. God in man. This is incredible. This is incredible. And to say, okay, I'm not going to have this false humility. Say, oh no, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. No, but say, God, With God, all things are possible. As St. Paul says in his letter to the Philippians, through Christ all things are possible. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Do we believe this? When we look at the things in our lives and we get overwhelmed, do we turn to the Lord and say, Lord, I can't, but you can? Are we like the Father at the foot of the Mount of Transfiguration who says, I believe, Lord, help my unbelief. You know how weak I am, but you can do all things. As we turn to the Lord today, as we turn to receive him, his very body, blood, soul, and divinity, receiving infinity into our small bodies, let us ask the Lord that we may be able to recognize his power, his love, his grace, this immense treasure held in earthen vessels.